Cassandra, welcome. I'm so glad to have you here today.
Thank you. So happy to be here.
Yeah. When I was looking over the agenda and having other conversations, I was really excited to have you join because I think you have created a company around the ideal product market fit. And what I mean by that is you've had all this experience in your life with sales and you gathered all that intelligence and then you launched this new company. Can you just tell us a little bit about your journey there and how that all worked?
Sure. So I started my career in software sales, and over the years, I worked inside of large organizations that had huge ecosystems of partners. And so, as a territory rep, you were always trying to figure out who in the ecosystem might overlap in your territory. And when you have thousands of partner companies you can go to market with, answering that question is so difficult. I was a mom, I had two kids, or I still am a mom with two children. And I was constantly working with my channel teams, trying to figure out who should I be meeting with, what partners, going on partner meetings and face-to-faces where we would spend all this time getting to know each other, then come to find out we didn't have any accounts in common. And so I just said, there's got to be a system that just maps me with my partners and allows me to stay in constant communication once we get our ground floor partnership off the ground. And so I looked for something on the Salesforce App Exchange, couldn't find anything. And that's when I started really studying the market and realized, hey, there's a real market opportunity to go build something that doesn't exist. And so that's what we did. And fast forward 5 years later, we have some of the largest organizations utilizing PartnerTap with their sales teams and their channel teams. Companies like HPE, SAP Concur, ADP are using our application to drive more revenue. So really seeing this vision come alive. And we're just getting started, it feels like.
Yeah, no, it's a really exciting time, and you're right at this epicenter of the ecosystem explosion, I think.
Right.
So it'll be interesting to see how this plays out. So, question that I've been thinking in the back of my mind all day as I've had conversations with different people: ecosystem and marketplace. Mm-hmm. Tell us, as the expert, what is the difference?
So I would argue that marketplace is a component of the ecosystem. I think of the ecosystem like all of your partner programs rolled up into one. So the marketplace is definitely where you have your partners that are transacting. So your customers and their like customers are coming through and they're purchasing services through the marketplace. However, those marketplace partners oftentimes can also be co-selling partners or reselling partners. So I definitely think that marketplaces, resellers, co-selling partners, just simple referral partners all wrap into this broad ecosystem and strategy for a company.
So would that sort of be the first step if somebody wanted to get their toe in the water, join a marketplace?
It could be. It just depends on how you see yourself providing value or getting value from this partnership. So marketplace definitely could be the first start. However, you have to have a technology that has an integration together in order to transact. A lot of partnerships start out where they don't have an integration. And so you would start as a different type of partner. Maybe it's a referral partnership. Maybe you're reselling a partner's technology. So it just really depends on what what value you're going to provide the partner and what they're going to provide you and where you're at in your company's journey.
Yeah, really getting that individual, but then joint proposition put together before you even decide, where do we then scale it?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
Okay. You mentioned selling, co-selling. These are terms that are probably new to some of the people who are listening in today. Sounds like as we move to ecosystems and marketplaces evolve, there's going to be a lot of new skills required in the market. Any that you've seen that are especially needed and, maybe we have a deficit in, or they haven't quite evolved yet? What's your take on that?
So I think as ecosystems evolve, what we're seeing is there's a lot of trust that needs to happen between these partners. Typically, in a large ecosystem, you are going to be a partner that also has competitors partnering with this larger partner potentially. So, how do you build trust with that big partner that gets you to the front of the list? And so it's difficult. And at the end of the day, there's humans behind these partnerships, not just companies, it's humans. So how do you, Leahanne, and I work well together? How do we together build trust? And then how do we bring that down to the field if we truly are co-selling where sales teams are involved in transactions? How do we get that trust down to the field? And it's a big shift for organizations and partner teams to really evangelize the value of partners. Sales teams, I hear this all the time, are very coin operated. And so depending on where they can make the best commission, that's what they're going to do. And there has to be a shift in thinking where, listen, I might lose a deal by bringing a partner into it, but I'm going to gain more because now that partner is going to bring me into more opportunities. So it is a big shift for companies, especially with an ecosystem strategy, to, from the top down, have that trust built and go all the way down to the field.
When I dissect the sale process into deployment and then post, obviously who's going to go prime is a trust issue. Mm-hmm. And I understand that the more conversation up front around dividing that proposition, as you said, but also probably, terms and conditions, who gets what piece of the money and where, very right. Nitty gritty things, who is supposed to do what afterward. But then that would probably also get into areas where we're deploying together and quality comes into play. Is your Absolutely. Understanding of quality delivery the same as mine? And at the end of the day, whoever's going prime is going to take the heat for that if it doesn't go right. well. Have you seen that situation and any
yes.
Solutions?
Yes. So that's one way to kill trust, right? The ecosystem is there to serve the customer, right? The customer is in the center of this whole model. So if we're missing a deployment because a partner dropped the ball, that is the quickest way to lose trust. And that's why you have these partner teams to go and help fix or remedy any situations that come up. I mean, at the end of the day, implementations can go sideways, but it's really how you're communicating to the customer, over communicating to the partner, where they can still have that trust with you that, hey, even when things go not the way we thought they would, I'm there to support and make sure we right size this. That's going to go a long ways. But yes, that is the easiest way to lose trust.
Yeah,
for sure.
And I would imagine just talking through all the various scenarios together and really getting into this is how we define quality, which might sound a little odd, but really digging into it, I think will help set those expectations if something happens.
It's also about aligning values. So, I mean, at the core of PartnerTap, the customer is always at the center of our universe. And when you're aligning partnerships, you really want to look for companies that have the similar core values to your organization. So when situations like the one you're talking about do come up, we're operating to help the customer. There's some companies that, they value things higher than the customer. And so when situations come up, they might not be remedying them as quickly as your team would. And so sometimes that just says it's not the right partnerships and maybe we need to focus elsewhere.
Yeah. Might be useful coming up with some really good scenarios and examples in preparation for those calls in order
Absolutely
to sort through that.
Absolutely.
On the front end of that, there's demand generation.
Mm-hmm.
What are you seeing? Are you seeing that conversations are taking place and then one partner takes the lead on it because they're better at it? Or is it done jointly? Because I know in our business, rainmaking goes toward a very few people within the organization. There are people who just don't like to play that role. And so what are you seeing in the market? So
with demand generation, I think it really depends on the type of partnership. So if it's a marketplace partner, this could be co-marketing demand generation that is done. If this is a reseller partner, this could be demand gen that is done by the reseller, but is compensated by the vendor. So it really depends on the type of partnership where the demand gen is happening. In a co-sell partnership, typically it can happen on either side. So it just depends on the type of partnership and who the agreements you've put into place and the goals that you've set for the quarter, how you're going to execute on those goals, and who is going to pull that demand gen lever. Is it going to be just one partner? Is it going to be the partners together? How are we going to measure success? So demand gen is that's a big component and should be a component of every quarterly or monthly partner meeting to say, where are we at with what we said we were going to do? Because we're not hitting X. So what was the pipeline that how are we generating the pipeline? Do we need to pull some different levers?
Do you think we're going to get a new acronym? EQLs, I guess they'd be called, Ecosystem Qualified Leads.
I think we already have it. There's a lot of companies with that acronym now. And I think it's great because it's saying that it's not just marketplace, it's not just reseller, it's not just co-selling, it's not just referral, it's everything. That's where our ecosystem qualified leads can come from. They could come from any partner in the ecosystem.
Mind-boggling, actually, when we start thinking about how that's all going to start evolving or working together. Mm-hmm. When we first spoke, one of the things that impressed me in particular was you talked about your onboarding process. And I know a lot of the companies that we work with, they are, let me say, a bit obsessed with, and maybe I'm overplaying that a bit, but with with expanding in a marketplace. So how do we get scale? How do we quickly take our small organization and make it huge, go global, et cetera? What they don't necessarily pay as much attention to is the actual landing piece of it. And you seem to have a process. I think you have 1,000 partners you brought on in the last 5 years, where that's working really well for you. Can you share some of your knowledge, learned knowledge?
So whenever we deploy a company who is a customer of ours, our number one caveat or our number one thing is this white gloved service. So for our customers to be the most successful, we need to make sure that their partners come on and their partners are sharing as much data as possible to our customers. So we've built a very flexible technology that syncs with a multitude of CRM systems. And our team works as a go-between between the partner and their ecosystem. And our job is to evangelize the data sharing and what that partner will get out of the data sharing once they come aboard. Because this is a give to get when you're talking about data sharing. If you're sharing data with your partner, the more data you share with them, the more they're going to share back with you. If you're looking for those ecosystem qualified leads, then we're not talking about sharing 100 accounts and opportunities. We're talking about sharing millions. That's how you get ultimate scale. I have a really good story about a company that was a learning management system company. Their name is Absorb. They're out of Canada. And they were looking to be the number one marketplace co-selling partner of ADP's. They had a huge hill to climb in order to do that because they were the unknown company and they were in an ecosystem with partners in the LMS category that had been there for years. The sales teams knew the partners, the channel teams knew the partners, the executives knew these partners. So to come in and be able to go from an unknown to the top LMS partner in 12 months took a lot of what I would call hustle, but they did something interesting with PartnerTap and ADP. They said, ADP, we're going to share our customers that overlap with our mutual customers and your prospects. And if we can help you gain access into these accounts or give you influence on deals that you are already in, we want to do that. No partner had done that before. The one complaint from the ADP sales team, who has, hundreds of thousands of customers, was our partners just take from us. They just want things from us. So this partner really thought through this differently of, I'm going to give so that they start thinking about us. And guess what? They grew that channel from zero in revenue. I can't say the numbers, but it was massive. And it helped them in the exit of their company. They are now known as the number one LMS partner inside of ADP. If you ask the 1,000 salespeople at the ground floor, do you know Absorb? They will say yes.
Absolutely.
But going from a nobody to a somebody, it was a definite hypothesis, but with this data sharing, they were able to just get to where the rubber meets the road and escalate their partnership from nothing. It was an incredible
Just by
story.
investing some trust.
Yes. That was very, very, very trusting. And yeah, it worked in their favor.
That's a great story. Thank you. You obviously have a lot of knowledge on the subject. and you've done a lot of things really well. If you were going to do things a little bit differently, go back a little bit of time to your younger or self, what would you do differently in regards to the topic we've been discussing?
That's a good question. It's so hindsight is 2020. It's so easy to look back and say, "Oh, I would have done this, this, and this." I think we did a lot of things correct. I think one of the things that we could have sped up on um, was listening harder to the customers that were telling us exactly what would help them drive more revenue in their business. So it's so easy early on to build technology, as yourself being the expert of what the market needs, but really it's that customer validation, and your customers can pull you in all these directions. I need this software to do this, I need it to do that. What we ended up, it was probably about 2.5 years in, where we just really drew this line and said, you know what, we are only going to prioritize features where this will help the customer drive revenue. And had we started with that, I think, 5 years out, our system would be so much better. I think our system is amazing, but I think that is the one thing that it did take a couple of years in to really go, okay, wait, we can go in all these directions, and we can build a process improvement application. But really, what the channel needs and what the ecosystem needs is an application that is going to help them drive revenue and help them uncover all of those hidden opportunities that they aren't seeing today. So that was a shift in our company.
It's interesting because I've been in this business a long time, and we've been having that conversation for eons, about listen to the customer first, but actually putting that into practice is done so rarely.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's really excellent advice, because what I've really heard today is, if we take old problems
Yes.
to the new ecosystem, then it's just going to fail.
Right. Right.
You're never going to move the needle at all.
Right.
Before we wrap up, and I know you're going to join us on the roundtable discussion, so I'm really looking forward to that. Given the channel as it exists today, or has existed over time, are there any activities or traits or things that are very common in the traditional channel that you think just have to be thrown out the window if we're going to be successful here?
Well, what we're seeing is the companies we're working with are changing their partnership agreements. So data sharing is something that's happened forever. People have been passing spreadsheets to understand, where do you have customers? Where do I have customers? Where do we align? How do we get our sales teams together? But it's kind of done under the radar. And so to really drive revenue, we know companies are going, okay, we need to open the kimono now. Data sharing is going to happen. But we also need that trust and transparency with our partners to say, this is the way that we're going to market. And if you want to partner with us, you're going to allow data sharing. So we're seeing a lot of contract changes. In some of the companies that have just been around forever, just being on the cusp of this big change. So we're seeing that. And the other thing I'll say is that because an ecosystem strategy is not these silos anymore. I mean, we've got the marketplace teams potentially. We have your traditional channel team. We have your traditional referral and co-sell. The partner actually can span all of these channels. And so the leaders inside of these that are running these partnerships actually need to be more collaborative and work together. And oftentimes they were competing against each other. But with a true ecosystem strategy that is going to drive exponential revenue, we need these teams to partner together to utilize the data that they're all receiving to do just that, drive revenue. So I think that's going to be a big change that we'll see in the future. So we've gone into so many companies where the channel teams globally just are not connected. They're managing the same partners, but they're not talking to each other. So in this new world, we really need to see the teams coming together with a global partner plan that's executed and discussed across teams. It can give an example of, we have software companies where they'll have a marketplace deployment, and they'll have a alliances deployment.
Oh, yes.
The teams manage the same partner contacts. They share different sets of data, but they could gain so many more insights if they actually collaborated. So I don't know how to help teams move forward. I mean, as the third party, our team works to get the teams to even jump on calls together. But for some reason, there's just this is, the objective I'm going after with this partnership, and this is my objective. And so it's, at the end of the day, the company is losing out. And oftentimes it means that the executives aren't aligned.
Yes.
I don't know how to help them, but I know that it is a challenge, and it's one that we see in most of the largest companies. They all have this challenge.
And it's interesting because we're talking about it right now in the context of ecosystems, and lots of people say, well, this is new or new to us, and we're just starting to learn about it. But what you just gave is a very classic share of wallet examples. And this is what we've been doing, hopefully, or saying we're going to do for ages.
Right.
So it's really just, I think what I'm hearing from you is that, participating in an ecosystem and looking to partner with other companies will only allow you to master that share of wallet experience even better, and maybe tackle it now where you weren't able to do it before.
Correct. For some reason, there's always this conflict. In all the large companies that we are deployed in, we see it, and we know that it will stunt the growth. But it's hard to, when you're growing so quickly and you're successful, it's hard to come in and change the strategy when things are working. But that they could be working so much more. It's a hard thing to solve for sure.
Don't broke if it ain't fixed.
Right.
Don't fix it if it ain't broke.
Right. We're still generating tons of revenue. We're, have high growth in comparison to other ecosystems. So it's not something our technology can solve for. The people component of the teams working together. We can solve it for teams working across companies, but that internal solve is where the shift needs to happen for sure.
Really interesting. Thank you. Great insights. Really, roll up your sleeves. Advice and learnings, and I think that's something that our audience is really going to appreciate hearing from you. I know I did.
Thank
Um,
you.
so thank you very much, and I look forward to talking to you a little bit later.
I do
Again.
too. Thanks so much, Leanne.